Here we see some very handy nodes for the node editor, which are the layer nodes. An ingenious addition, these guys, because of course what they give you is a classic interface for layered textures. So if you still need to rely on layered approaches for things as you have done before, then you can use those approaches within the node editor. You have different ones for the different components, of course, the colour, scalar, which you would use to drive things such as luminosity, diffuse amount, specular, gloss, reflection, etc. Essentially black and white, but for the purposes of node we think in 0 to 1. And of course bump layers that give us vector outputs. And of course inputs the same for all of these nodes. Sometimes these can offer us certain little shortcuts. For instance, if we switch to gradient, then the input parameters that are available to us on the layered gradient are of course different from the ones that are available in the standard gradient node, which has fewer. So rather than having to grab a gradient node and plug an incidence or a thickness node into it, or a weight map or whatever else, we can just pull up a layer node and use its gradient mode to grab a common preset from that drop down. The other layers worthy of note are of course dponts, which are the layer plus nodes. Basically, these are identical, with a couple small exceptions that they'll take object or world space position inputs, and they also have an auxiliary input. Again, this comes into play when we're in gradient mode, and you'll see that auxiliary is now an available preset input. So in this way, using one of dpont's layer plus nodes as a gradient node, you not only get more presets available, but via the auxiliary input, you get connection as you would have with the regular gradient node, where of course you have a scalar input available. DP even gives a surface layer node, which gives us a panel like this, which of course is basically the basic tab from the regular surface editor. You can go in here and you've got a whole bunch of layered textures for all of your different surface components. So if you're pulling tricks from the node editor, but there are still things you don't know how to do and you need to fall back on layered methods, these layer nodes are truly wonderful because they allow you to mix in with other kinds of nodal setups that you've got going on. A wonderfully helpful set of nodes.